Thank you very much. So we'll share the presentation. Yeah, so I'm very happy to present this research also together with Monalisa, since I didn't have much time the last month to prepare, but Monalisa has been very supportive. Yeah, so we'll stick to the same topic on incentive for sustainable land management that was originally also planned to be presented by Alex. However, whether Alex's research focuses more on the smallholder farmers and their priorities in terms of incentives, we look more at the implementers of those incentives. If you can please continue. Yeah, so I'll briefly, okay, we already got quite a long introduction of ourselves, but I'll briefly mention what we've been doing with regards to this research, and then I will go through the problem definition, research question, research method, which I will be presenting, and then the preliminary results. Yeah, so I'm the one, if you can, yeah, so I'm the one, actually all of you know us, so I'm the one who actually conceptualized the research very closely, interlinked also with the research that Alex is doing. However, and I also conducted the interviews that we're relying on in terms of data, but Monalisa has spent the last month to do a preliminary analysis using the transcript in Atlas TI. So she will be presenting the results part. So if we start with the problem definition, we're looking very broadly at the topic that within the program we're all working on sustainable land management within sub-Saharan Africa, and realizing that soil degradation is a threat to livelihoods in rural communities, particularly in semi-arid areas, although not limited to semi-arid areas only. Then there is the premise that even though unsustainable land use is not the only driver of this soil degradation, sustainable land management practices are acknowledged to be able to mitigate or reverse soil degradation that is going on. And these can be agronomic measures, vegetative measures, and structural measures, and I think many others within the broader BMFTR funded program are looking also technically at the effectiveness of those practices. And even though there's quite much knowledge on the effectiveness of these practices technically, the adoption is lagging behind. And this is also not a new, how to say, a new insight. If you can go to the second part of the problem definition. And we actually find there's a large body of literature on the barriers to adoption, even quite over a long period of time, and more recent also very much on incentive for smallholders to overcome these barriers. Now, the literature on those incentives puts a lot of focus on the behavior of smallholder farmers. For example, by approaching it, looking at the preferences of smallholder farmers for specific incentives to actually take up certain sustainable land management practices, and less attention is actually paid to the multiple actors that are designing and implementing these incentives. And that's what we would like to do within this research, because it's also within some research, some recent publication, it is acknowledged that those actors, what actors are implementing the incentives, that this also impacts the effectiveness of the incentives. And yeah, it's so whereas most research focuses on the, let's say, incentives, adoption, outcome chain, our major question is not what incentive works, but who implements what incentives for what purpose? So our major research question is how do different actors influence the design and implementation of incentives for sustainable land management practices among smallholder farmers in sub-Saharan Africa? Today, we will look at our first two sub-questions. So the very basics of answering our research question, looking at what incentives do different type of actors implement. That's our first research question we look at today. And then the second, what is their rationale behind implementing those incentives? Then if we go to the research methods, I conducted 21 expert interviews with different types of governance actors, and we are currently conducting a qualitative content analysis using Atlas TI. And in the interviews we asked, of course, we also asked them what kind of practices these actors are promoting. But then our major question was around why are they promoting those then, and how are they promoting them? And then again, why do they use this way? Why do they choose this way of incentivizing or promoting the particular practices? So the aim of the research method, or the idea, was to try and conduct interviews with different governance actors across the different across the different types of governance actors, and we took I would say a rather standard typology of different governance level versus different societal realm, and we've managed to get 2 to 3 high quality interviews with actors from those under those different typology, with the local and regional national actors mainly coming from Ghana, and of course international actors being broader located. Here I would hand over to Monalisa to introduce the preliminary results.
Thank you so much, Eefje, and good afternoon to you once again. So I will go on. Okay, so to just continue from what Eefje was saying, we go on to now look at the different incentives and the wider support packages. So this on this slide, we see the 4 main categories of incentives that are used to promote SLM uptake, also grouped by their function. And this was mainly also based on the categorization from our colleague Alex, as Eefje mentioned before. So this was also presented during the status seminar in Ghana sometime last year. So we have these 4 main categories. So we look at agribusiness, mainly the incentives that connect the farmers to markets, as well as the business opportunities. Then, whereas when it comes to financing, these are the different funding and payment mechanisms. So for capacity building, this really centers also around training support for learning through the different activities. Like here you see the farmer field days and demonstration farms. Then also lastly, the land access when it comes to different ways of securing land rights. What are the issues there? So moving on, I'm just going to use this graphic to explain a bit. So as Eefje said earlier on, we did this qualitative analysis using Atlas TI. So these are some of the results based on the transcripts for the different actors. So as you can see from this, we have got this, I would say, orange color there, it shows the state actors, then blue here, mainly the private actors, then the local NGO and international fall under the civil society. Then as well, these are the different categories that we have talked about. So these are the different incentive types that were really also coming out from our data. So when we look at this, we see that extension services, such as extension services and farm inputs, these are from the data. So this is mainly the quotations, that is the number of quotations from the different actors and what they were saying and how well they were mentioning. As you can see from this here, we put the green cell. It's showing us the actors that are mentioning the or taking up the different or implementing or supporting these incentives. Whereas on the other one, sometimes the actors just also mention or reference them to other particular actors. Then on the red, it's usually mainly those that did not explicitly mention them. So that is really what the data shows. So for this first one, we are saying the farm inputs, really, when we talk about these incentives, we are saying that the different types of actors are taking up different incentives. And you could see that when it comes to the extension service and farm inputs, almost all, I would say the actors are really also implementing this, and they have different rationales why. Then we also go to the next one. Here we see that when it comes to issues of this, when we are talking about when it comes to land access, it's mainly by the state and civil society actors. Then also we have got the financial support that is being implemented. As you can see from this, it's really being implemented by actors. As we say, these ones are actors at national level, and less like you can see from our data that if we look at the local actors, there is less adoption. Then also from our data, we see that some different actors are relying on a broader array of incentives, particularly the civil society. As you can see that the civil society are mainly also really relying and taking up all of these different incentives. So the main reason also could be being their interests, which is what we are still trying to investigate. As Eefje said, these are just preliminary findings, and for the other remaining of the research questions, we really try to look deeper in understanding what that means. Then on this graphic, you see the different incentives that are being mentioned most, and it shows how these were distributed across the different actors. And again, the extension services and the farm inputs were the most mentioned. So this is just the frequency in the number of mentions for the different incentives. So moving on now, we want to go to this first part was really trying to answer for the first question. Then moving on to question 2, what rationale behind implementing certain incentives for SLM practices? So we have got the level 1 and the level 2 categories. So on the level 1 categories, we are mainly looking as to why do certain actors or why are certain actors focusing on certain incentives, and what is their own rationale? So that's what we are trying to understand. Then for the level 2 now, we look at why is there need to give these incentives, or yes. So for the level 1 part of it, this from this slide, we can see that different actors are really bringing across different reasons as to why they promote sustainable land management practices. So you would find that some of the actors were really emphasizing, this was really around direct responses as to why they promote this SLM. So the first one here was one actor from the International Civil Society, and they talked or really stressed around food security. So this was that they talk about the challenge of soil fertility and how they are limited in terms of getting money to buy some inputs. So this actor says, for us, we are looking at food security. How can we work with our farmers to be able to produce in such a way that they will have enough to eat and they will have enough to sell to be able to generate income? Then, another actor is also really coming in with, you know, with a different reason and really speaking around issues of improving yield. So you see that the harvest, they were saying that, you know, sometimes when it comes to the harvest is being very low. You see the harvests, you cry for them, it's below average. You realize the fertility of the soil is very low. So these are really some of these reasons, and we also could see from our data there were other also different reasons, which are climatic change adaptation, and also actors mentioning issues of land capture or exit from agriculture, which was something coming in from some uses now of the land being turned into mining. So these are some of the things that the actors were really bringing across. Then strengthening rural livelihoods, as these people rely mainly on agriculture. Then also when it comes to food safety, there was talk around independence from the agrochemical industry, and mainly promotion of organic products, and even what the farmers can use. Some of the actors were mentioning that what they have in their land and how they can use some of these organic ways, and also reasons to aligning with the SDG, and as well as the political commitments when it comes to the different actors. So right now I will ask again Eefje to come in and go to the next point. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that was the level 1 rationale, where we mainly looked at the reason to promote sustainable land management practices. But now if we look at the level 2 rationale, we see again a diverse picture where many of the actors actually explicitly or implicitly say that we need to provide incentives because sustainable land management practices, the benefits only appear over a long term, whereas it requires upfront investment in terms of time, labor, and money. So also in literature, I think this is an argument very widespread, and we find it also in explicitly in some of the interviews pronounced in different way. For example, because of this long-term effect, the farmer doesn't feel the investment today. Another one is saying this is a period of 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even more years. There's significant risks involved for smallholder farmers. So they relate to this what we termed or coined delayed benefits argument. However, following from that, we see that there are different lines of argument following from that, where some say because of this delayed benefits, we need more awareness raising so that they know what kind of benefits are going to be there for them in the future. Whereas others say, because of these delayed benefits, they need to get any support for their investments, whereas others say because of these delayed benefits, we need to make sure that our intervention or the practices we promote also include short-term benefits. So I have 3 quotes also showing these different approaches now to overcome the delayed benefits and this reasoning behind it. So the first one is on awareness raising, where one actor is saying we need to provide them with frequent education, sensitization on the benefits of what we're doing so that they can grab it and put it into practice. Really highlighting the need for training, education, awareness raising, whereas the next actor is kind of rebuking this, and it's saying, no, it's not that it's a new technology. They know of them already, but it's like they don't have the patience to adopt those practices. So in order to get them back to that practice, you need to be able to support them, and then eventually arguing that inputs are needed. Then a third one is focusing more on the need for short-term benefits. So farmers know what works. If they see a practice bring them tangible benefits, they'll adopt it. The practice we want to spread must deliver immediate visible benefits. So they all come from the same overarching argument, but then there are different lines of thought on how to now overcome these delayed benefits. Then an alternative rationale, which also came up, is on tenure security for marginalized groups. You could say it's still acknowledging these delayed benefits, but then saying this is not a problem for most of the farmers, but particularly for those who have low tenure security, like women and younger people. And this quote was mainly referring to speaking to younger farmers where this international civil society actor mentioned that when I asked whether they implemented any kind of sustainable land management practices, they told me they are in it for short term. So they just want to get the best they can out of the land they're leasing and go. So here it's more into the direction that there's a need for support of long-term land security to incentivize sustainable land management practice adoption. So here I would like to kind of conclude our presentation. So from our very preliminary analysis and trying to answer the first 2 research questions, we can see that a diversity of incentives is implemented by different actors. And we can also see clear patterns that certain incentives are implemented across the board, certain incentives only by specific type of actors, either across a different governance level or across specific societal realms. Then as a second at the second step, we looked at the rationale or motivation of the different actors, and there we also saw that the actors themselves bring across different reasons for incentivizing sustainable land management practices. Now, in our further analysis, of course, we need to bring these 2 together and can see and try to see how the patterns that we observe can be explained by motivation, and also by looking into the third and fourth research question, looking into their perceptions on their role and responsibility within the transition towards sustainable land management, and also their capacities to actually act, or their resources they have to be able to implement incentives. So the idea is that with this research, we basically add up also to the research done by Alex, who's looking more at the perspective from the farmers, that we go beyond the search for a most effective incentive or a bundle of incentives, but rather to look at the other side of the coin and understand why certain actors prioritize specific incentives and how this relates to their role as governance actor. So thank you very much for listening to this presentation, and we're very much looking forward to the discussion part.